Performing arts. It refers to performance of drama, dance, and music. The origins of performing arts can be traced back to the Greek theater, which was originally a religious rite. Protagonists like priests and worshippers were dressed in animal skins, used speeches, dance, songs, and etc. to stage a play which moved audiences' emotion. By nature, it is a kind of worship rites and competition, entertaining the public, from the medieval theater, Commedia dell'arte, to Elizabethan Shakespearean theater. Theater carried its function of entertainment. Contemporary playwrights such as Henrik Ibsen, Anton Chekhov, and Bertolt Brecht asserted that theater should be socially critical. Theater remains its state as a literary medium. Theater is often taken as a container of drama, dance, music, etc., and thus as a main corpus of performing arts. In contemporary theater, the emergence of genres such as dance theater, music theater, and visual theater proves how various non-text-based forms of performing arts, a plural noun, are represented by a single term, that is theater. Theatrical performance is a narrative which represents a story with united characters, plot, time, and space. Audience enters a momentary and imaginary world of a play which mimics reality. According to Aristotle's Poetics I, which is believed to be the root of theater aesthetics, the process of which audience are having an emotional experience of the play and then return to reality, can be referred to a dramatic function called catharsis, an emotional purification. To convert performing arts into theater, the literary narrative or the visual representation of storytelling becomes the core of its form and structure. Dance and music are also considered to be literary media as well. Performance art. Performance manifestos from the futurist to the present have been the expression of descendants who have attempted to find other means to evaluate art experience in everyday life. Goldberg, 2008. Russell Goldberg's pioneering research on the history of performance art in the last century traced performance art back to Futurism, Constructivism, Dadaism, Surrealism, etc., in which artists began making art using live presence as protests to the then prevailing ideas on art. Artists started walking out from galleries and into public space, where they explored the rather transient and unstable nature of performance than traditional art, using their bodies as medium and having an art of ideas over product. During the 60s and 70s, the heyday of performance art as described by Goldberg, the development of live presence took on a more established form. Under Alan Capro's flagmanship, happening emerged as a form of performance art. Capro, who studied with John Cage in the New School of Social Research in New York, did his 18 happenings in 6 parts in 1959. 3. In this, 3 rooms in Ben Gallery divided into 6 parts, in which of were invited to participate, experience happenings in night. Happening, defined by Capro as something spontaneous, something that just happened to happen, became a widely accepted label for this form of performance art. I have heard more than once people's complaint about happenings. Doesn't something spontaneous mean not serious at all? Indeed, the so-called something spontaneous, something that just happened, is an attempt to devolve things back into natural nobility. Even in some spontaneous chance performances, such as Cage's theater piece 1960, inspired by I Ching, The Chinese Book of Changes, and Dick Higgins, that started 1965, musicians, actors, dancers, etc., were performing according to the randomly picked movement, sound, and style, but there remained fundamental conceptual structures of generating randomness. Also, the problem of being serious involves how we see happening as a spontaneous event. Unlike traditional performing arts or theater, happenings have no plot or storyline but are merely an event. Performers and happenings are not inserting characters but performing definite tasks. A spontaneous event is not in a mimic external time-space matrix but is real-time and real space with audience in a natural setting. Michael Kirby points out that elements in happenings such as performers, movement, speech, music, images, costume, props, or objects, setting, or installation are illogical because they do not necessarily relate to each other, thus do not constitute an information structure of an imaginary time-space. While theater employs narrative that requires unity and emotional involvement, happening as an established form of performance art is a spectacle of non-linear actions and concepts that challenge existing frameworks of art-making practices and are closer to conditions of daily life. At this point, how can we map performance in the scene where linear literary means of expression is often so dominant? In recent years, live art becomes a fashionable term in the UK. Live art or live events often appears in some arts centers, program diaries of events in theater and galleries. One thing you can say with certainty about live art is that no one has ever quite agreed what it is. Appropriately, its slippery shape and ever-shifting borders are just two reasons why live art is such an exciting and challenging territory to occupy. It is constantly asking what is art, what can it do, what is its role, what is its value, what is its legacy. Kaidan, 1999, ver. 2. Therefore, live art is not a rigid art form but an ever-changing concept that is its attitude and strategy. People may think live art that maintains the unstable and slippery form and works against establishment is the British version of performance art that originated in the US. Live art indeed also conveys tolerance, considering all kinds of practices involving artists' live presence in their works. For example, happenings, theater, dance, or any other obscure works which explore time, space, and ideas about art, all under the umbrella of live art. Live art is a way to find this diversity of conceptual, ephemeral, and unrestricted practices. Given that performance art is the above performance of action, art thus highlights the liveness of performance or live of living versus art.
So this report we are gonna tackle about the media art. So what is really a media art? So when we say media art, actually this is a production of time-related artworks digitally created using new media and technology. So before I tackle that, as our population swell rapidly, that's together with our technology is more advanced and more high-tech, that is actually has a good benefits and a bad benefits by having our technology more progressive. And the good benefits for that is that there is a room for improvement on our art. or there is actually also a progress towards improvement of our traditional art that we used to know. So, I've mentioned earlier that media art is actually more or modified art that uses technology to express feelings, to share a personal point of view, to share perspective as well, and ideas creatively. So this is actually, you could use a lot of elements to portray the media art. This is actually, you could play with spaces, time, light, motion, color, and sound. So this is more likely a combination of our traditional art and our together with the media or the new technology. So just to set clear expectation, it can also be created by the use of recording. I've mentioned earlier, this gonna be used by the sound and also visual images. So I have here a lot of example in regards to the media art. So I am going to tackle this one also. But first, what is really the goal of media art? So the goal of media art is to give students or people to improve their skills in regards of art, because having our technology, we do have a lot of room for improvement, such as giving us opportunities to to create art in many different ways. This is the installation art. So what is an installation art? This is an art genre that uses three-dimensional works, which is site-specific and attempts to transform space perception. From the word itself, installation, it means putting something inside of something else. So for this one, we could actually, if we could visit some museums, some gallery to witness some paintings, some sculptures, and other antique belongings, we could see there, such as ancestrals or fossils. When you see a museum that displays a remains or fossils of the dinosaurs, you could actually see the, what do you call this one? You could actually visualize the vivid image of what it would usually look like when it is alive. So basically, for the installation art, it portrays more on environment and usually occupy massive and gigantic spaces. So it looks more realistic because I've mentioned earlier, this is a 3D or having a 3D effect that could be seen by a viewer. So let's say, for example, that you visited a museum and you see a very big sculpture of what do you call it? Let's say, for example, a scenery for an environment or a mountain. You could actually feel that the environment or the ambience of the place is, it will really took you onto the place that you could feel the air. You could actually feel the presence of the wind or the air. So it bridged more on the realistic and the animated, or what they call the line between art and life. So when you see, if you were a viewer, you would really appreciate it. So I have here my next example for the media art, and this comes with the projection mapping. When we say projection mapping, this is an art generated by works of multiple projectors on the surface. You could actually do that on a wall, on the floor, to create amazing visual displays and projections. So usually artists combines paces, lights, and technology to create worldly scenes to seemingly ordinary spaces. So imagine if you were an artist, you could transform, or you could actually convert the very boring place into a work or a place of art by using the projection art mapping. So just like the one that I've mentioned earlier, the installation art, this is actually a large installation also crafted by a teams or a professional or an artist. But this is usually happen outdoor venues. I've mentioned earlier the installation art that actually happens in a museum, on a gallery. It's more on indoor venues, but when you are going to do the projection mapping, you could actually do that outdoor. And the projection mapping actually that's not limited only on the floor, that is also on the walls. When you are going to watch a live concert or a live open concert of your favorite artist, you could see a lot of lights coming from the wall that would create different shapes and really capture your, or I mean adds into the mood of or the ambience of the environment. So I have really an example here on my mind wherein I could really capture or I could see the projection mapping. This is where the Victoria's Secret Angel model ramped in their floor. It's really have multiple colors wherein having a different shapes or irregular shapes that could usually turned into something or some other forms that has actually captured my mind because it's really good in the eyes. That's what I describe, and I can actually that's actually captured my attention rather for the models that are being participated on the show. And also I've seen a lot of projection mapping on because we know that China is really an advanced country. I could see that on the bridge that they pass, there's actually a 2 dimensional, which actually when you step on the glass door, it usually leaves what do you call a crack image. So it's kind of scary, but you would really appreciate that kind of art. So the next example that I have here for media arts is the video production. So what is really a video production? This is simply everything that goes into the ideation, the planning and execution of the video to have a smooth finish and dynamic finished product. And also to distribute and to ensure a successful finish. So when we say a video production, it's actually employing a variety of technical, creative, and design technique to tell a short story. Usually, a lot of people use this for purposes of marketing a product, idea, company, or concept. So this part I'm going to tackle is why is video production or what is really a video production. So when we say video, this is the one of the most successful forms of media used today to engage, inspire, and educate a viewer. Since that we are really having a fast-paced technology, it's really rapidly progressing, and we are really more on the digital stuff nowadays. As a 21st century baby, I could really attest to that. Actually, by combining the both visual and audio elements, video productions allows us to fully engage a specific audience and take them on a journey with the help of creative and technical manipulation. So for this one, when you are going to watch some videos and you are being carried away by the scenes, you could, let's say for example, you are watching a horror movies, and we're in on the very climax of the story or very peak of the story. You could actually be carried away by the scenes that is being presented on your screen, even though it's only on the television. So that is the main goal of the video production. It's really allows you to be more engaged or more likely to feel like you are really on the real setting of a particular show or a particular video. So because of this medium, because this medium is so versatile, Many would argue that video production is a quintessential tool to accomplish any kind of storytelling. So for this one, you could actually just tell, when you say storytelling, there's a lot of ways for you to exhibit or execute, to tell your own story. But having the video production, their main goal is really to ensure that that is actually has a dynamic, finished product. So the next example I have here is actually, this is more likely or have a similarity of what I mentioned earlier, the video production. But on this part, this example is actually a film production. So on the video production, I've mentioned earlier that it's just a short video, but you could actually also gain or profit from that. This actually used for marketing purposes, as well as this one, the film production. So this is actually lengthy. When we say lengthy, it's really have a long story that undergone a lot of stages, undergone a lot of process to do, and a multi-step process of making movies that can sometimes takes years to complete. You could watch movies, but when you are going to watch some series, that would actually takes decades. Let's say, for example, I'm a very avid fan of watching Friends, that actually took decades for them to film this sitcom or this show. So there's actually a lot of stages that having the film production may undergone. So